Thank you for that. Heather would have written this months ago, gone over it several times. I did not do that because it would have taken me months to write, so I started about 2 p.m. So then I would be done on time and not take too much. So anyway, please forgive. I didn't memorize it. I'll do my best. First, thank you all for coming. You've come from a long ways. Many of you came from much further away, and many more of you came than we expected. Thank you for your support online, sharing your stories and your memories. I've certainly learned a lot of things about Heather that I did not know. And so one of my comments down below probably didn't apply. So one of Heather's greatest fears was to be forgotten. She didn't, she expressed it several times. So she would be touched at the attendance. Friendship was really important to Heather, who couldn't drive anywhere without, oh, well, I know someone here and I know someone there and I know someone here, stop. And because of these ambitious schedules that we set, it's like, oh, if we stop here, we're never gonna get like the 10 hours that you set out to do today. Anyhow, friends, again, really important, and she would be touched that you were here and your comments online, and I wish she could have seen them. Some of you sent videos. Now, I think she really touched at those two, even though it's too late in that because she couldn't spit them. Anyhow, moving on. In addition to friendship, okay, or part of, in the workplace, it was also a preoccupation of hers that people get along and work well together. She brought in people to try and facilitate that. One of the books around is even a book about how to get people to get along or create a environment where people could get along. So I heard a lot about this. Speaking of that book that is around, it belongs to the Nipissing Library and she lost it. And we just found it later and she did not want me sharing this, but she was, she also did not like what she's holding me. Okay. Part of it was embarrassed. She was a bit of a rule follower. And so like, oh, okay, I take this out and I bring it back. I called her goody two shoes. She did not appreciate that. And I think some of the stories I heard from her in high school might demonstrate that maybe she wasn't as much of a goody two shoes as I thought. Something that she and I kind of found challenging. And this was like from one of the first doctor's appointments. She was told, look, just focus on your hobbies. If I were you, I would just go gardening. But Heather's hobbies were reading and writing about what she wrote. So that kind of hurt. So she did continue to travel. Travel was also like any trip we took, there's always some sort of work element. Like, oh, I want to see this exhibit so that I can write about it, or this author. There's always some sort of tie-in. But we did keep traveling, and so she did photography in its place. She found an outlet, something she could do, and that was definitely new from before. She had a passion for education, whether it was fighting tooth and nail with a teacher for an extra mark, skipping school to study for a test. Who does that? Spending entire Christmas breaks preparing art history lectures. I did not see Heather for a few years when she was teaching art history. But it was important for her to write in a way in which everyone understood. She did 2 masters, and in one of them, I remember she came home and she told me about this guy that used the word cleavage instead of divide. And that kind of turned her eye. I do not want to speak like that. I don't want to write like that. That was just, she wanted it to be understood, even though reader writing, and sometimes I get up and then another time, whoa, just tone it down. Anyhow, she was very proud of her blog and the stuff that she published. There is one, her latest publication is around here somewhere. Yeah, anyway, she was very, the day that she found out, oh, they asked me to be in this book, was like a wow. Yeah. So, I just talked about her work. Oh, okay, sorry, I have to skip back to the pages I didn't edit now. So she was ambitious with her work as well, with me supporting what might be characterized as a stretch and possibly impractical. So one of these was her working in New York while I worked in Toronto. So we would just alternate weekends. Okay, well, you're gonna fly here, I'm gonna drive there. And then it's like, oh, flights are expensive, so now I'm gonna take the overnight bus because I could get them for $20. And really?
That's so weird.
And so she would get to New York early in the morning and just go straight to work because it was too early or too late to go to bed. And in her office, she had 2 bucket chairs, you know, like chairs that she would put them together and sleep there until it was time to go to work. I was like, you could get fired. But anyway, she did this, and I was remembering, and she would not like that other people, you know, say and done. Anyhow, and the other thing I wrote here is that the job offers she received were offered. She didn't quite meet the requirements yet. She was always like pushing herself. Like, okay, well, I'm going to throw. So New York, she didn't. No, she just, well, I'll throw in because, you know, and we thought, okay, let's see if you get the job, then we'll decide whether you do it. Well, then once you got it, you kind of got both. Okay, so she fought hard for what she wanted. She told me much later that she decided to marry me only shortly after we met. But she kept that to herself, which was wise, because I went, oh, okay, spooky. Anyway, she was strategic in getting her way. So first she invited me to move in with her and her sister. Rent is cheap. Oh, okay. And then a little later on, she went on a trip for 2 weeks, which made me miss her. So when she came back, she asked me, hey, would you marry me? Oh, okay, well, now I really miss you, so I'm going to say yes. But it was finished up, you know, because she cared for me. She cared for me. She didn't want me to do anything too dangerous, but she also enabled me with some crazy ideas and sometimes even added to them. So our first trip together, on a long weekend, I thought, okay, we're going to go see this rally in Gaspé, and then we're going to go to PEI, and we're going to come back. Okay, so that's already like pretty ambitious. And then she's like, oh, well, we're going to be so close to Halifax, let's do that too. So that only adds like another 8 or 10 hours, like 10 hours PI after you've driven around PI. So yeah, enabler. Yeah, we added crazy ideas on top of crazy ideas. Heather would have come up with a really good way to conclude this, and I have not. So now Julie's going to come up and get her.
Hi, I'm Julie Saunders, I'm Heather's sister. Heather Lynn Saunders was born on April 1st, 1976 to Dennis and Eva Saunders, just shy of 2 years after I'd been born. It set her up for a lifetime of being joked about as an April Fool's surprise, which she endured with mostly good humor. It's also my earliest memory because my entirely predictable schedule as an only child went right out the window while Mom was in the hospital. I was put down for my nap at the wrong time of day. I was given yogurt as a snack before lunch instead of as my dessert. Everything was upended. And yet, somehow, I must not have held it against her, because we grew up as best friends and playmates, finding it perplexing that other children would fight with their siblings. Our lives ran in close parallel well into adulthood, attending the same undergraduate program in art and art history at the University of Toronto, sharing some of the same jobs at the Delphi Public Library and at Everyday Gallery, both working in magazine publishing and even being roommates for a few years in Toronto. It was only once I started my master's degree in medical illustration, taking anatomy with the medical students, that Heather said she was quite certain our paths had diverged because she was not interested in human dissection. Brimming with creativity and a love of learning, Heather had her own goal of becoming an art librarian, which required taking 2 master's degrees in history of art and library and information studies at the University of Toronto, a challenge she relished. Heather passionately pursued her career, and Anthony, her husband, who she married in 2007, supported her the very many places it took her, from Purchase College in New York to Nipissing University in North Bay, the Cleveland Museum of Art, and culminating with her appointment as the Dean of Libraries and Archives at Acadia University in Nova Scotia. It was while living in Nova Scotia on March 11, 2023, that Heather called Anthony. He was in Ontario, visiting family. Although it was only mid-afternoon, she sounded strangely tired and could only keep repeating the phrase, "I'm okay." Anthony immediately knew she was not okay, that in fact something was very wrong. Anthony figured out how to call 911 in Nova Scotia, and emergency responders got her to hospital. It took a couple of weeks with MRIs and a brain biopsy for her diagnosis of a brain tumor, glioblastoma multiforme. This daunting news came the day before her 47th birthday. Heather and Anthony had been in a very serious car accident 5 years earlier, which Heather did not expect to survive. It gave her the perspective that her time since had been an unexpected bonus, and she felt bolstered by having already once confronted her own mortality. She pursued treatment vigorously: neurosurgery, radiation, chemotherapy, and a clinical trial for a medical device.
And she tried to keep working.
She also openly shared her story with friends, family, and on social media. Helping to build awareness for this disease was very meaningful for her. If having a brain tumor wasn't unlucky enough, Heather also suffered some unusual and unexpected side effects from treatment. The stresses on her body and brain added up, and although she very much wished to return to work, she was never able, with too many issues with language, memory, fatigue, and mobility. Throughout all of this, Anthony dedicated himself to being her full-time caregiver, and she greatly relied on his help and love. Unlike some of those with a brain tumor, Heather was fortunate to preserve her warm and thoughtful personality, optimistic outlook, and desire to make the most of the time available. She and Anthony traveled as much as possible within the limits of hospitalizations and medical appointments. She enjoyed socializing when her energy levels and immune system permitted. And I think that, as time progressed, her brain adapted to deficiencies in some areas by enhancing others. She became inspired by brightly colored patterned clothing. She found great visual significance in certain scenes she encountered while traveling. And she became deeply attached to certain songs. She also surprisingly retained an ability to play Scrabble, even as her ability to get out many words was impaired, and spelling was somehow less affected. To finish, I would like to play a video for you. It's an excerpt from the video that I made more than 20 years ago after the death of our father at the age of 57 from Hodgkin's lymphoma. As Dad was in the hospital in his final few weeks, Heather asked to interview him about his life. I later edited the footage together with family photos and videos from our lives together. And rewatching it, I'm struck by how much of Heather is in it. Her words, her vitality, her love. Although it's ostensibly about her father, it's also about what it means to live a good life, one that's cut too short, too soon. And so, hopefully someone is going to press play.
must be made from all wrong. I'll be satisfied and all.
French joke.
Let me walk to thee. Sorry, Dennis.
This is our life.
Our life.
From candidate video. Julie King. 2 years later, it just keeps happening. 2 years later, another equal ability. Another variety will stay.
Well, we knew we wanted to have at least 2 children. Just didn't seem fair to have only one. Up to me.
Well, the thing is, once you got 8-year-old, you're still choosing that out. I mean, really, year-old babies are, I think anybody can do things. Most newborns, unless you're connected. Yeah.
So, yeah, girls. All kinds of cute things.
Which are written down in the
Press difference, no name.
The Staff Memorial Scholarship was created to honor and encourage academic excellence at the OIC level. In order to receive this award, the recipient must achieve the highest overall average in their 7 best OIC subjects, and must also be active in classroom and extracurricular activities. My experiences with Heather Saunders began 19 years ago in the St. Joseph's Hospital. At the time, she was loudly voicing her opinion about being thrust into a situation about which she had little opportunity to choose. I've had the pleasure of watching her grow up. I've had her in my class twice during her high school experience. As a result, I feel well qualified to comment on her progress today. Heather receives this award with an average of 95.2% in her final year of health. And it is with great pride and very special pleasure that I present this award to my daughter, Heather Saunders.
Like, how you're teaching from it?
My wife,
You're teaching?
excuse me, go ahead.
30 years?
Hmm?
30 years, what did you learn? What was your favorite thing?
Well, the one thing that I've always considered, when you go to work, that you either work for money or you work for satisfaction.
Rules are gone.
Whatever reason you found something that you find really neat to do or satisfying, you're working with people. And I've never felt that working for money was a worthwhile goal. It's an easy way to keep score. That's what people use money for, basically. They use it to keep score. Well, hey, I got a bigger building, or I got a house with more bedrooms.
They're fine, happy.
Yeah,
Are we still recording? We are, yes.
so, different structure, different folks, but I just never felt that actually working for money wasn't fun at all. Well, you know, we've had a pretty normal life. Sure.
I think it's been more extraordinary than most people I know.
I don't know.
Hello, I'm delighted to be here. May I say something quickly? I believe that birthdays are concepts. Concepts are numbers, and numbers are just like a thing. So if something weird happens, I'm delighted to be here. I love this family. It's my family. That's all I have to say. Life is good.